Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Gracias. Thank you. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Let's have a seat. Thank you. Let's have a seat. Thank you. I love you too. Dear Matt and Mercy, thank you for the kind invitation to have me here at CPAC. It is truly an honor to be here just a few days after our presidential and legislative elections. Which, by the way, they pulverized the opposition.
Yes.
They say globalism comes to die at CPAC. I'm here to tell you that in El Salvador, it's already dead. But if you want globalism to die here too, you must be willing to unapologetically fight against everything and everyone that stands for it. Fight for your freedoms. Fight for your rights. The next president of the United States must not only win an election, he must have the vision, the will, and the courage to do whatever it takes. And above all, he must be able to identify the underlying forces that will conspire against him. These dark forces are already taking over your country. You may not see it yet, but it's already happening. You don't see it as clearly because people are designed to see linear changes, not exponential ones. We don't always recognize how fast a problem can multiply and spiral out of control. The problem is much like the metaphor of the boiling frog. Once the water boils, it's already too late. People fail to see these things. It's our nature. Just like the frog, people become complacent, and they don't realize how bad things are getting until it's too late. While I know, of course, El Salvador is a lot smaller country, setting aside the differences, there's a similarity with what is happening here in the United States. We also had many apparently isolated problems in the 60s and the 70s. And we failed to realize as a country the severity of them until it became a civil war. By the time we reacted, it was already too late. We were already boiled like the frog. And it took us 50 years, 2 wars, 250,000 lives, and a third of our population displaced, and a near miracle to get our country back.
Thank you.
As your friend, I want to issue this warning so you don't make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s. It is not easy to pull yourself back once you're in boiling water. In fact, all the experts said it was impossible. And besides, you don't want to wait 50 years and maybe hope for a miracle to get out of hell. You can still jump before the water boils. Some might say I'm exaggerating, but we can clearly see the signs of a declining society because our own hit rock bottom decades ago. It's like when we see someone getting sick. First, it's maybe just stomachache, or a headache, or a small fever. But if you don't deal with the disease, it will only get worse, and then it may be too late. Even after our first war in El Salvador, we failed again to look into the signs of the second civil war that was coming, the gang war. After 1 million people fled the first war, a lot of them came to live in ghettos here in the United States, where the gangs were formed. When former President Clinton deported a lot of those gang members without telling us they were gang members, they were criminals. They roamed free and recruited young people, thousands of young Salvadorans, to join the gangs. At first, they seemed like petty criminals, but they began to change and transform until they became the unscrupulous terrorists that we know today. Most of them even perform satanic rituals, and this has been well documented. The government back then didn't deal with the disease. nor did the next administration, nor did the ones after that. The disease that had begun with mild symptoms got worse and worse. It became a cancer that seemed incurable. We are already seeing these symptoms in the United States. Big cities in decline like Baltimore, Portland, New York, just to name a few. Places where crime and drugs have become the daily norm and even accepted and promoted by the government. How many young people have you lost to the streets of Philadelphia or San Francisco, to fentanyl? Did we see these apocalyptic sights 15, 10, 5 years ago? Can you imagine how it will be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years? The same thing was happening in El Salvador. In the span of less than a decade, gangs took control of all the country and our society. They evolved into a parallel government, controlling elections and even political parties. Every aspect of the daily life of most people was controlled by the gangs. Murder capital of the world is a tragic title to hold. Getting rid of that was the bare minimum we had to achieve in order to even start thinking about rebuilding our country. But jumping out of the water when it's already boiling is an almost impossible feat. You are not there yet. And believe me, you don't want to be. We did the unthinkable to cleanse our society. We arrested the terrorists, but we have to remove corrupt judges and corrupt attorneys and prosecutors. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bueno, ArleQuin, muy claro, Bukele en sus palabras. La cuestión es si todavía hay oportunidad, si todavía hay chance y el agua no está hirviendo, si se puede todavía parar esto, ¿no?
Pero ese es el punto, ¿no? Esto va a depender de la conciencia que hayan tomado estas personas del sector primario que se están enfrentando ahora con la fuerza que Dios le dio y la tienen toda ahora mismo, porque sin ellos no se puede sacar un país hacia adelante. Si tienen conciencia y son capaces de ver la película completa, porque el problema es si se enfocan en lo que a ellos ahora mismo les interesa, ¿no? O sea, si ahora se van a enfocar y van a empezar a hablar de productos fitosanitarios que entran de otros países que aquí están prohibidos, eso es la rana dentro del agua. Si empezamos ahí, el agua comienza a hervir y cuando se quieran dar cuenta, están atrapados. No hay que negociar nada, no hay que hablar nada de ventaja o de inconvenientes agrícolas. O sea, eso es meternos en una conversación.